Qigong is a meditation practice a lot like Tai Chi that's done in a standing posture, and it has huge benefits in terms of health and focus and ways in which we can use it to enhance our sleep in different parts of our lives. So let's start by talking about what is Qigong. Here's an official definition: a mind, body, spirit practice that improves one's mental and physical health by integrating posture, movement, breathing technique, self-massage, sound, and focused intent. So yeah, absolutely. It is that. It is all that. I have to say that. But to the lay reader, even to the martial artist, that sounds like everything under the sun. And in looking around for people who are just asking, like, what is Qigong? Like, my heart breaks for them, either in classes or in workshops or even on the internet, because it's hard to conceptualize that something as simple as it is delivers these results. Unofficially, what is Qigong? It's a series of movements, and these movements will look a lot like Tai Chi. They come from the same canon of movements, silk reeling, if you will, often. And you're usually in a standing posture with your feet shoulder width apart, nothing deep, nothing too martial. And your movements are coordinated with important breathing patterns and breathing suggestion. The set itself can last for 5 to 15 minutes, and it may be anywhere from 3 or 4 up to like a dozen movements. And this is important. A good Qigong set is not overly complex because your entire focus is on the energy development. So 2 sets that I do, a morning set and an evening set, they're about a dozen movements that are pretty simple, and some of the moves you repeat 1, 3, or 9 times. So to learn the set, if you will, does not take a lot of effort, but it's not complex, and it wouldn't be complex like a martial art form or like a martial series of movements or 26 yoga postures, which is by and large not that much either. I think that yoga in itself kind of falls into the same camp as Qigong. So Qi, subtle breaths, vital energy; Gong, skills cultivated through steady practice. So think about this as being an energy set. Qigong, energy set of movements, which this kind of kicks us into the next camp of mysticism, this idea of Qi. So I want you to take a little walk with me here, just in terms of nomenclature and vocabulary around this, because if we are working with someone who doesn't have internal development, or we're not at that place yet to conceptualize this idea that there's energy inside you that's robust and moving around and that you can feel, it'll bend your mind, and it will make you doubt that what you're doing exists. And it doesn't have to be that complex or that mystical. So here's a couple examples. In the Inuit languages, so these are languages from the northern hemisphere, right? Eskimo groups, that they have over 50 words for snow. Makes complete sense. Fine snow, snow on the ground, soft, deep snow. Different ways to describe something that's very important to them in all of its minor forms, its synonyms. Equally so, complete opposite geographical example. Arabic has over 100 words for camel, and these fall into groups of camel types like gender, size, drinking behavior, appearance, or function. I don't need these words. I have one word. It's camel. It's been serving me well for decades, and I don't know that I would add another one for any purpose. But you can see that their culture and their needs have given them this synonym, these robust synonyms around something that's important. Well, within Chinese, there's several different words for energy. And we conceptually in the Western world may not have this, and ultimately what happens when we try to describe it is, I feel that this gets bastardized and kind of promoted into this crazy idea of energy, which does exist, and there's some crazy aspects to it, and it's great. But in terms of believability, it doesn't have to be this unbelievable, if you will. So just thinking about it, you would agree that in terms of energy, if I can use that word loosely, that when you wake up, your energy is different than midday, and it's different than when you go to bed. When you were sick, your energy is different. If you were to get furious, if you were to drink 5 cups of coffee, if you were just to find out that your boyfriend or girlfriend broke up with you, and you were to describe these as different energies, you can understand that you have different energies. Whereas your native language, my native language, wouldn't necessarily describe this or populate this in different ways. The second point is that all of these different energies exist within you. Whether it's the fact that you're sick or in the best shape of your life, it's a description of something that you've produced. And the third aspect of it is that it's changeable and sometimes rapidly changeable. If you think about getting sick, like being out one day with your buddies, the next day being sick, I mean, that's a day. But think about times where you're driving down the road, minding your own business, and there was a near collision that you just barely escaped, or you even got hit, and how dramatically your energy changed. And whatever you were griping about inside the car as you were driving, that is the last thing on your mind in that time. So energy can also within you change dramatically from an outside source or from just an inside source or some perceived change. Okay, so that's as far as we need to go with Qi, is just that understanding that there are varieties of energy within you that can be changed. Okay, so taking that path and know that we've got a set of movements that could manipulate this energy in a positive way. And that's kind of where we get to Qigong. It's tapping into the energy that we have through movements in our body, through thinking, and through breath work in a very skilled way that's been honed for hundreds of years to get a certain outcome. Is this going to light your hair on fire? I mean, a rare day it might, especially if you're working with a really solid Qigong teacher. But I think that Qigong is the most beneficial by what it doesn't do. For example, you may not have as many maladies as someone else, your gender and age and race, if you are a Qigong practitioner. So that's not something you're going to publish on social media or brag about, the fact that you didn't get sick for an entire year, or that you're highly, highly flexible as a 55-year-old. You know, these aren't, unfortunately, like, I think they're amazing outcomes, especially when you look at the averages. But those are kind of the unsung heroes of Qigong. It's the medications you don't take and the amount of energy, if you will, and positive experience that you have throughout your normal day that makes this so vital. And especially when we're talking about 6 or 8 minutes a morning, makes it very, very highly impactful. Here's an example of a Qigong set. So there's thousands of Qigong sets. This is another reason it makes it a little bit more difficult to learn, because ultimately some martial arts have a very small canon of movements. You know, so many kata in this karate set, so many forms. Some Tai Chi forms, they have a single form and single form for additional weapons, if they even do that within their family. Well, there's thousands of Qigong sets which may have been prescribed for certain ailments or certain needs. And one of the oldest ones here that I'm showing as an example, the 6 healing tones, this was about 1500 years old. And it's more popular, and I say popular in that many people do this single set, but by and large, Qigong has a huge variety. So this makes things difficult when we are trying to learn a set and trying to know whether it's valid and whether it's good, because are we going to find someone else to talk about rather than just the person talk about it with, rather than just the person teaching us? Are we going to find tons of videos or resources for it if there's this multitude of these sets? So basically, we need to know what's intended by all Qigong sets so that we have an ability to evaluate a form of movements and determine whether it's helpful or not. This is a really interesting set, the 6 healing sounds, if you're to look this up. And the long story short is that you're sitting or moving your body in a certain way, and you're thinking about an organ or a portion of your body, and you're thinking about a color which has a certain relationship to an organ, and you're making a sound to vibrate your body in a certain way. again, 1500 years old, and it's really, really pretty cool as far as like a healing mechanism. To give you an example,